The Velveteen Rabbit by Marguerite Williams. There was once a velveteen rabbit, and in the beginning, he was really beautiful. He was fat. His coat was brown and white, he had whiskers, and his ears were pink. He was the most beautiful of all the boys' Christmas presents. But for a long time he was in the toy box or on the floor, and no one thought about him. He was afraid, and some of the more expensive toys were not nice to him. The toys that could move were very different, and looked down on everyone else. They were full of modern ideas, and they said they were real. Between them all, the rabbit felt very small, and the only one who was nice to him was the skin horse. The skin horse had been in the room longer than any of the others. He was so old that his brown coat was bad in some places, and showed the lines under it, and he had almost no hair in his tail. He was wise, because he had seen a lot of toys come to talk, and be important, and then break, and go away. And he knew that they were only toys, and would never become anything else. "What is real?" asked the rabbit one day, when they were next to each other near the fire, before the woman came to clean the room. "Does it mean having things that make noise inside you?" "Real isn't how you are made," said the skin horse. "It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." "Does it hurt?" asked the rabbit. "Sometimes," said the skin horse. "When you are real, you don't mind being hurt." "Does it happen all at once?" he asked, "or little by little?" "It doesn't happen all at once," said the skin horse. "You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily, or who have to be kept carefully." "I think you are real," said the rabbit. But the skin horse only smiled. "The boy's uncle made me real," he said. "That was many years ago, but once you are real, you can't become not real again. It's for always." The rabbit was sad. He thought it would be a long time before this magic called real happened to him. He wanted to become real, to know what it felt like. There was a person called Nana who was important in the room. Sometimes she didn't look at the toys on the floor, and sometimes, for no reason, she went about the room like a great wind and put them away in boxes. She called this cleaning up, and the toys didn't like it. The rabbit didn't mind it so much, because he always came down soft. One evening, when the boy was going to bed, he couldn't find the dog that always went to bed with him. Nana was busy, and it was too much work to look for it at bedtime. So she just looked around her, and seeing that the toy box was open, she went to it. "Here," she said, "take your old rabbit, he can go to bed with you." And she took the rabbit out by one ear, and put him into the boy's arms. That night, and for many nights after, the rabbit went to bed in the boy's bed. At first, he found it not very nice, because the boy held him very hard, and sometimes he moved over on him, and sometimes he pushed him so far under the bed that the rabbit could not breathe very well. And he didn't like also those long hours in the night in the room, when all the house was quiet. But very soon he came to like it, because the boy used to talk to him, and made nice small roads for him under the bed that he said were like where the real rabbits lived. And they had great games together. And when the boy went to sleep, the rabbit would come down close under his little warm face and dream, with the boy's hands around him, all night long. And so time went on, and the little rabbit was very happy, so happy that he never saw how his beautiful coat was getting older and older, and his tail becoming bad, and all the pink off his nose, where the boy had kissed him. Spring came, and they had long days in the garden, because wherever the boy went, the rabbit went too. They had rides in the garden, and they ate on the grass, and they built small, beautiful houses. And once, when the boy had to go away to drink tea, the rabbit was left out on the green until after dark, and Nana had to come and look for him, because the boy couldn't go to sleep without him. He was wet and quite dirty, and Nana was angry because she had to clean him with her coat. "There you have it," she said. "All that noise for a toy." The boy sat up in bed and held out his hands. "Give me my rabbit," he said. "You must not say that. He isn't a toy. He's real." When the little rabbit heard that, he was happy. He knew that what the skin horse had said was true at last. The room magic had happened to him, and he was no longer a toy. He was real. The boy himself had said it. That night, he was too happy to sleep. And into his eyes, that had long ago lost their new look, there came a look of being wise and beautiful, so that even Nana saw it next morning when she picked him up and said, "This old rabbit looks quite wise and beautiful." That was a wonderful summer. There was a forest near the house where they lived, and in the long June evenings, the boy liked to go there after tea to play. He took the rabbit with him, and made the rabbit a little place somewhere in the grass, where he would be quite comfortable, because he was a kind boy, and he wanted the rabbit to be happy. One evening, while the rabbit was there alone, he saw two strange beings coming out of the tall grass near him. They were rabbits like himself, but quite different. They must have been very well made, because their lines didn't show at all, and they changed shape in a strange way when they moved. One minute, they were long and thin, and the next minute, fat. Not always staying the same, like he did. Their feet came softly on the ground, and the rabbit tried hard to see how they moved, because he knew that toys that jump usually have something to make them move. But he couldn't see it. They were a new kind of rabbit. They looked at him, and the little rabbit looked back. And all the time, their noses moved. "Why don't you get up and play with us?" one of them asked. "I don't feel like it," said the rabbit, because he didn't want to say that he had no way to move. "Oh," said the different rabbit, "it's very easy." And he jumped to the side and stood on two legs. "I don't think you can," he said. "I can," said the little rabbit. "I can jump higher than anything." "Can you jump on two legs?" asked the different rabbit. That was a terrible question, because the rabbit had no back legs at all. The back of him was made all in one piece. He sat still in the grass and wanted that the other rabbits would not see. "I don't want to," he said again, "but the wild rabbits have very good eyes." And this one looked behind his head. "He doesn't have any back legs," he said. "Think about a rabbit without any back legs." And he began to laugh. "I have," called the little rabbit. "I have back legs. I am sitting on them." "Then put them out and show me, like this," said the wild rabbit. And he began to move around and dance until the little rabbit became quite confused. "I don't like dancing," he said. "I want to sit still." But he wanted to dance, because a funny new feeling went through him, and he felt he would give anything in the world to be able to jump like these rabbits did. The strange rabbit stopped dancing and came quite close. He came so close this time that his long whiskers moved the rabbit's ear, and then he moved his nose and jumped back. "He doesn't smell right," he said. "He isn't a rabbit at all." "He isn't real." "I am real," said the little rabbit. "I am real." The boy said so, and he almost began to cry. Just then, there was a sound, and the boy ran near them, and with a sound of feet and white tails, the two strange rabbits went away. "Come back and play with me," called the little rabbit. "Oh, do come back. I know I am real." But there was no answer. "Oh, no," he thought. "Why did they run away like that? Why couldn't they stop and talk to me?" For a long time, he was very still, watching the grass and wanting that they would come back. But they never came back. And then the sun came down, and the boy came and took him home. Weeks went on, and the little rabbit became very old, but the boy loved him just as much. He started to lose all his whiskers, and the pink inside his ears became gray, and his brown coat came off. He even began to lose his shape, and he was not much like a rabbit anymore, except to the boy. To him he was always beautiful, and that was all that the little rabbit wanted. He didn't mind how he looked to other people, because the room magic had made him real, and when you are real, being old doesn't matter. And then, one day, the boy became sick. His face became very red, and he talked in his sleep, and his little body was so hot that it burned the rabbit when he held him close. The little rabbit stayed there, under the bed, and he never moved, because he was afraid that if they found him, someone might take him away, and he knew that the boy needed him. It was a long time, because the boy was too sick to play, and the little rabbit found it quite boring with nothing to do all day. But he stayed down and looked forward to the time when the boy would be well again, and they would go out in the garden with the flowers and play great games in the forest, like they used to. All kinds of great things he planned, and while the boy was half asleep, he went up close and said them in his ear. And then the boy got better. He could sit up in bed and look at picture books, while the little rabbit was close at his side. And one day, they let him get up and put on clothes. It was a beautiful sunny morning, and the windows were open. They had taken the boy out onto a high place, and the little rabbit was in the bed, thinking. The boy was going to the sea tomorrow. Everything was ready, and now it was just about what the doctor said. They talked about it, while the little rabbit was under the bed. The room was to be cleaned, and all the books and toys that the boy had played with in bed must be burned.
"Great!" exclaimed the little rabbit. "Tomorrow we will go to the sea!"
Because the boy had often talked of the sea, and he wanted very much to see the waves, and the little animals, and the sand. Just then Nana saw him. "What about his old rabbit?" she asked. "That?" said the doctor. "Why, it's very bad. Burn it now. Get him a new one. He must not have that anymore." And so, the little rabbit was put into a bag with the old picture books and other things, and carried out to the end of the garden. That was a good place to make a fire, but the garden man was too busy just then to do it. He had work to do in the garden, but the next morning he would come early and burn everything. That night, the boy went to bed in a different bedroom, and he had a new rabbit to sleep with him. It was a beautiful rabbit, all white with real glass eyes, but the boy was too excited to think very much about it. Because tomorrow he was going to the sea, and that was such a wonderful thing that he could think of nothing else. And while the boy was asleep, dreaming of the sea, the little rabbit was with the old picture books at the end of the garden, and he felt very alone. He was cold, and by this time his coat was so thin from being held that it was no longer any help to him. Nearby, he could see the garden, where he had played with the boy. He thought of those happy hours in the garden, and a great, sad feeling came over him. He thought of the skin horse, so wise and nice, and all that he had told him. Why be loved and lose one's beauty and become real, if it all ended like this? And a tear, a real tear, came down his little old nose and fell to the ground. And then a strange thing happened. Because where the tear had fallen, a flower came out of the ground, a strange flower, not at all like any that was in the garden. It had thin green leaves the color of green, and in the center of the leaves, a flower like a gold cup. It was so beautiful that the little rabbit forgot to cry, and just stayed there watching it. And then the flower opened, and a woman came out of it, but not a normal woman. She was very beautiful. Her dress was beautiful, and there were flowers on her and in her hair, and her face was like the most perfect flower of all. And she came close to the little rabbit and took him up in her arms and kissed him on his nose.
"Little rabbit," she said, "don't you know who I am?"
The rabbit looked up at her, and it seemed to him that he had seen her face before, but he couldn't think where. "I am the room magic person," she said. "I take care of all the toys that the children have loved. When they are old and the children don't need them anymore, then I come and take them away with me and turn them into real. Rah!" "Wasn't I real before?" asked the little rabbit. "You were real to the boy," she said, "because he loved you. Now you will be real to everyone." And she held the little rabbit close in her arms and went with him into the forest. In the open space between the trees, the wild rabbits danced with their black shapes on the soft green. But when they saw the person, they all stopped dancing and stood around to look at her. "I've brought you a new friend," she said. "You must be very nice to him and teach him all he needs to know in Rabbitland, because he is going to live with you forever." And she kissed the little rabbit again and put him down on the green. "Run and play, little rabbit," she said. But the little rabbit sat quite still for a moment and never moved, because when he saw all the wild rabbits dancing around him, he suddenly remembered about his back legs, and he didn't want them to see that he was made all in one piece. He did not know that when she kissed him, she had changed him. Just then, something moved his nose, and before he thought what he was doing, he put up his back toe to clean it. And he found that he did have back legs. His coat was now brown, soft and new. His ears moved by themselves, and his whiskers were so long that they moved the grass. He jumped once, and the happiness of using those back legs was so great that he went jumping about the grass on them, jumping to the side and moving around as the others did. And he became so excited that when at last he did stop to look for the woman, she had gone. He was a real rabbit at last, at home with the other rabbits. Autumn went by and winter, and in the spring, when the days became warm and sunny, the boy went out to play in the forest behind the house. And while he was playing, 2 rabbits came out from the grass and looked at him. One of them was brown all over, but the other had strange shapes under his coat, and around his little soft nose and his round black eyes, there was something that the boy knew, so that the boy thought, "He looks just like my old rabbit that was lost when I was sick." But he never knew that it really was his own rabbit, who he helped to become real.